Hello YouTube, welcome to Review and Shop. Today we will watch best smartwatches for iOS in 2018. Number 5, Motorola Moto 360. To this very day, the original Moto 360 remains among the list of my favorite smartwatches. The understated and minimalistic design is something to die for. After several years, I am looking at the Motorola Moto 360 Sport, a newly released version that is more suitable for sporty users. I am glad to see that Motorola is still following the design language of the original Moto 360 with some minor tweaks here and there. This was one of my biggest concerns when Lenovo acquired Motorola a few years ago, but after seeing the Moto 360 Sport, it is no longer there. The 360 Sport drifts away and does not present itself as something fancy, and while it is built for people who prefer to remain active and enjoy sports a lot, there is nothing that will stop an average consumer from using this. I do not play much sports, and despite that, the watch welcomes me with good amount of features. The design is still understated, and looks good. However, I cannot bring myself to understand the presence of that small chin that still resides on the watch face. It is something that has always bothered me, and even though it is no longer as prominent as it used to be, I can't help but wonder the reason for it. Now my favorite thing about the Moto 360 Sport is obviously the screen, and not just the screen itself. The tech that goes into it is amazing. Now the reason I am praising this screen so much is because while the screen may look the same to everyone, it uses a clever tech that Motorola is calling a new light display. When the user is looking at the watch under the normal light, and actively using the watch, it looks your standard LCD screen. However, as soon as the watch goes idle, or there is direct light on the watch faces, the screen turns itself into a trans-reflective display. A display that I have seen on the Pebble Time watches. This feature is to make sure that the battery life gets preserved, and the user is able to read the time and date with ease. Speaking of battery life, it saddens me to say that it is not as good as I had expected. Sure, smartwatches use smaller batteries as compared to our other devices, but they are supposed to be efficient enough to power the watch throughout multiple days. Number 4, Garmin Fenix 5. Praise be to the gods of progress and miniaturization because Garmin has succeeded in shrinking the Fenix 5 from its previous iteration. The Fenix 5 is significantly smaller and lighter than the Fenix 3 HR, and is certainly easier and more pleasant to wear. At 47mm it's still massive, but not quite as unwieldy. While the Fenix 5 delivers plenty of benefits for all-day wear, it's still hardly a looker. Industrial and bulky, there are 5 actual screws in the bezel. But the lighter and smaller design does mean that you can get away with all-day wear, and those who identify by their love of the outdoors can turn it into their permanent watch. There's still a color screen and the visuals look a tad sharper, thanks to the new resolution of 240 by 240, upped from 218 by 218. At first glance you might not notice the colors, they're used sparingly yet to good effect in screens like heart rate zones and menus. As you might guess from the design, the Fenix 5 is water resistant to 10 atm, which roughly equates to 100 meters. The Fenix comes with a rubber strap as standard, which is interchangeable. We found it comfortable and durable in testing, but it did have an annoying habit of falling out of its buckle loop and flapping about. Watches don't come more feature-packed than the Fenix 5, but it's the sports tracking that steals the show. When you set up for the first time, the Fenix 5 will ask you to choose the activities you wish to have on your menu. The options range from the obvious, outdoor or indoor running, indoor cycling, road cycling or mountain bike and pool swimming or open water, to other sports including golf, skiing, triathlon and parachuting. It's hard to find a sport that the Fenix 5 doesn't track, and luckily, you can set favorites for a more personalized and focused sports menu. They can be added to at any time from the main menu. Activity tracking is also a huge part of the setup, and thanks to the heart rate sensor that's built in, these stats are particularly rich. But in addition to sports and fitness tracking, the Fenix 5 does a great smartwatch impression. Notifications from your phone will be pinned to your wrist, although you can't read these in full. However, unlike Fitbit, the Fenix 5 isn't fussy about what it displays. If it hits your phone's home screen, it will get pushed to the watch, and it's sometimes nice to get message notifications when you're out hitting the trails. If you don't want them, just set your phone to Do Not Disturb. With your phone paired, you also get updates such as weather and calendar events synced to the watch, which can be accessed by cycling through the home screens. It's a nice touch and brings your Fenix to life. Like the TomTom Adventurer, you can also upload GPX/TCX files for hiking or walking routes. The process is a tad more convoluted than the Adventurer, and it actually took clarification from Garmin on how to do it. We're prepping a full guide, but you need to grab the Garmin Basecamp software first. It means with a little faff, you can add to the courses section of your watch. Of course, you can use Garmin's built-in software, which is found on the web dashboard. It's actually pretty close to Strava's, once you get past the initial UX carnage, but we do prefer the ladders. However, the GPX upload means you can grab hikes and walks from the web, which is a feature we love. Despite the shrink in size from the Fenix 3, the Fenix 5's battery longevity hasn't been affected. Garmin boasts that you could get 2 weeks of battery life from the Fenix 5 as a watch, and that very much stands up. We found that when running, cycling or hiking using full GPS tracking, the Fenix 5 would last around 14 hours, less than the stated 20 hours from Garmin. However, this was with Bluetooth connected and all settings set to default, so you could probably eke out a few more hours. Number 3, Apple Watch Series 2. The Apple Watch Series 2 looks almost identical to the original, and I don't mind that at all. This remains my favorite smartwatch when it comes to looks, particularly since it isn't as chunky as rival watches. It helps that I prefer square watches. Those who prefer round ones might not be as kind. The Watch 2 is a fraction thicker than the previous watch, but not enough that you notice without seeing the two next to each other. The square screen with rounded glass edges make it simple to swipe up, down, left and right from the edge to provide additional shortcuts, and the rotating digital crown still works well as a method of zooming in and out, and general navigation. The button just beneath the digital crown has been reappropriated from a useless shortcut to contacts and on/off switch to a much more engaging way to scroll through the new app stock. More details to follow. You can opt for either the stainless steel or, slightly cheaper, aluminum chassis, and one of two sizes, 38mm and 42mm. The Series 2 is available in a range of colors: gold, rose gold, space gray, and silver. This time there's no expensive gold-plated model. Instead, Apple has created a beautiful white ceramic smartwatch. The ceramic cast is treated at length at high temperature before it's polished smooth. Not only does it look super attractive, it's 4 times tougher than the stainless steel model. The headline feature for the Apple Watch 2 is water resistance. Not only will it survive a brief dunk in the bath, it's now fit for the sea. Apple claims it can withstand up to 50 meters of water, although we wouldn't advise that you go scuba diving with it just yet. It's meant to survive the rigors of arms swinging through water, as opposed to being plunged into the depths. There's a wide range of straps available for the Series 2, both from Apple and third parties, with an even bigger selection on offer than before, and they're the best way of making an Apple Watch yours. As well as the relationship with luxury brand Hermes, Apple has also joined forces with Nike to launch the Apple Watch Nike Plus. This comes with a special strap, with compression molded perforations to make it more breathable, ideal for athletes, along with some exclusive Nike watch faces and apps pre-installed. For those who intend to swim regularly with the Apple Watch 2, I'd recommend a silicone strap, rather than the metal or nylon options. The sports strap doesn't retain any water, so you won't be left with a damp wrist all day after a brief plunge and are more comfortable as a result. Number 2, Apple Watch Series 3. As mentioned, not a great deal has changed in terms of the Apple Watch's design. While nearly every other smartwatch maker has transitioned to a circular design, Apple has stayed the course since the device's launch in 2015. For me, the Apple Watch 3 remains one of the more tasteful smartwatch designs out there. Each iteration of the device has seen its thickness creep up, but it's such a negligible amount that you'll only notice if you place each model side by side. Consider the hardware enhancements being packed into newer models, and it's really an impressive feat of engineering that the Apple Watch 3 remains one of the more svelte smartwatches. In the Watch Series 3, the LTE antenna has been squeezed in behind the screen, barely impacting the device's overall thickness. The positive side effect of this move, which may come as a surprise, concerns comfort. In other LTE-enabled smartwatches, the antenna has often been placed inside the strap joint, making the join with the watch casing stiff and uncomfortable. This isn't an issue with the Watch Series 3. Apple has also opted to include an eSIM, which is physically smaller than a nano SIM. The embedded eSIM isn't a component you'll ever need to swap out. Instead, changing providers is done on the network's side. Setting up the Apple Watch 3 for LTE usage is completed through the Watch app on your iPhone. It takes you through the process of signing up to a smartwatch plan with your provider. Beyond the thickness of the device, the only other visual separator from the Watch Series 2 is in fact only present if you opt for the LTE-enabled model. The Apple Watch's digital crown gets a splash of color, with the red dot denoting your always connected capability. Below the digital crown is the side button that's been reappropriated in use over the years. It can now either bring up your dock of favorite apps or your most recently used apps. The other side of the watch casing houses the speaker and microphones. Flip the watch over and the optical heart rate monitor is still present. Like the Series 2, the display is made of what Apple calls Ion-X strengthened glass. I've accidentally bashed last year's aluminum model on every imaginable surface, and put it through various workouts and swims, and it remains blemish-free. I'm confident this year's model will live up to the same rigors. All models of the Apple Watch 3 remain water resistant to 50 meters and will happily survive a dunk in salt water, too. The new model uses the same charming water ejection method as the Series 2, where it will play a specific tone to eject water from the speaker. And finally, number 1, Apple Watch Series 4. What's more, because the Apple Watch sells so well, we see it on many wrists. Designs seen as gawky or challenging often become more accepted the more we see them. What we're saying here is that if you've been put off the Apple Watch because of the design in the past, it's time to forget all about it and give the Series 4 a try. The Series 4 comes in either 40mm or 44mm case sizes, but you don't notice much of a difference over the 38mm and 42mm Series 3, at least not in a bad way. The size difference is mitigated by the slimmer case, which is down to 10.7mm over 11.4mm for the Series 3. It doesn't sound like much, but it makes it easier to get the watch under a tighter shirt cuff. Crucially, it's the visible screen area that has been increased. We are wearing the 44mm model, and the display area is 977 square millimeters, compared to the 740 square millimeters on the old 42mm Series 3. Apple's advancements in screen technology and case size is highlighted by the 40mm Series 4 having a larger visible display than the 42mm Series 3. Thinner bezels are key here, and the curved corners help emphasize them, while also appearing more watch-like and keeping up with mobile screen trends. A sensible change over the Series 3 is the circular red line identifying the cellular model over the GPS model, which is considerably classier than the big red splotch used on the Series 3. The heat rate sensor has a cleaner design than before too. Apple's fabulous build quality shines through. The Apple Watch is an excellent example of what premium means in the mobile industry, as it's almost flawless. Apple's sport loop straps look great too. The pictures on Apple's website don't do them justice. The black sport loop has a copper fleck running through the material, which complements the space gray watch very well. We'd choose one of these over the sport band, and the insanely expensive Milanese loop option. It's comfortable for everyday use, and is good at resisting sweat when working out. Crying about the Apple Watch not being round is redundant today, and the watch buying public largely agrees, judging by the amount being sold. To not buy the Series 4 because of this is the wrong decision, because you're missing out on a beautifully made, highly wearable, and with the right strap and body color combination, damn attractive smartwatch. Apple's S4 dual-core processor powers the Watch Series 4, and we experienced no slowdown, and almost no hesitation at all when opening apps. If all you've ever used is the first Apple Watch, the Apple Watch Series 4 feels so fast you'll want to put on a seatbelt. This is true whether you're reading the news on the BBC app, scrolling through music and the new Podcasts app, or replying to Facebook Messenger. The fast replies work best, but you can reply more fully if you take the time to draw out letters or use voice. Navigation is always responsive and smooth. The Apple Watch's battery capacity is unknown, but Apple says it will last for around 18 hours before it needs a recharge using the included magnetic charging disc. The quoted time is on the conservative side, depending on your use. If you're using GPS, fitness tracking, or cellular, then 18 hours is at the top end, but with only notifications and turning it off overnight, we could almost reach 24 hours. The Apple Watch Series 4 is a comprehensive improvement over those that came before, and a giant-sized leap ahead of most other smartwatches. You should buy it.